All right, welcome to today's video then. I'm going to be taking you on a walk with me here. I know it's been a while since we've done one of these. So this is a winter walk in the West Midlands of England. And this path that we're on here is actually abandoned. This path used to connect all the towns and cities around here, but it's since been fenced off. So you've either got to, why I'm out of breath, you've either got to jump over one of these fences or you got to come up one of these embankments here, which is very difficult to get up because it's all overgrown. So we'll talk a little bit about macro today as we navigate this assault course, and we'll talk about stuff going on in the world, all the craziness going on right now, and there's a lot of that at the minute. So what's happening then? Well, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And a lot of people say, oh no, you're just scaremongering, this isn't happening and all this sort of stuff. But, you know, one way to look at this for yourself, go to your local Rolex store, go to your local, you know, high-end type of business. You'll see what's happening right now. You'll see a lot of patterns and trends. A lot of these luxury stores are opening at an unprecedented rate, taking over from, I guess, all the stores that have gone bankrupt, gone out of business. And I was just in Coventry last week, and there's this huge store that's just opened. I can't remember the name, but it's high-end fashion only. So this is really luxury fashion. Some of the trainers in there, or what you'd call sneakers, some of you, I guess, were, I think the highest one was about £2,000 for this pair of trainers. And then it was, you know, it's a bit like going through Harrods and things like that. And the guy who I was speaking to, he said, oh yes, really busy. We've got loads of people coming in. We sold out of all these trainers. We sold out of all these baseball caps. And, you know, one of these baseball caps was £600 for a cap. And I speak to clients. One of my clients, he's a yacht manufacturer, so he makes yachts. And he only does about 2 or 3 yachts a year. And he said, he's got a waiting list now for 3 years on these luxury yachts. So, I don't know if you saw my tweet recently, but Paul Krugman, the Nobel Prize winning economist, said, oh, it's all nonsense that the poor are disproportionately affected by all the inflation and everything going on at the moment. You know, it's not a big deal to the poor. It's the rich, actually. They're the ones that are suffering the most. I mean, I just thought, is this guy mad? Has he gone absolutely crazy? I understand where he's coming from, but it's not true at all. He's talking about the fact that lenders, so the big banks, for example, that lend the money, they are affected because rates are super cheap, so they don't get the same sort of return. That's what he's referring to. But to say that the poorest in society aren't affected by inflation is crazy. I mean, he's completely lost touch. I know a lot of people, and you know, I've said it before, I don't talk about it a lot, but I work with a lot of charities. Just last year we donated I did personally actually, I donated 2 truckloads of food. Now this year, you know, the calls, the requests that have come in, I'd need to do 5 or 6 truckloads. And I don't mean small van, I mean like a huge articulated truck, just to make the same impact as I did a couple of years ago for the food bank. So people who are saying the poor aren't affected, the lower middle class aren't affected, I don't know what they're talking about. It's obvious. You can see the inflation everywhere. And these inflation numbers, as I've been saying for the last 2 years anyway, they are not true. These inflation numbers are fake. There's no way that, and it again depends on your country, anywhere from 4 to 7%. There's no way. If you actually go by the metrics, the CPI metrics from, you know, go back a couple of decades, 2-3 decades, inflation should really be closer to 15 to 20% in most countries right now. And yet the politicians say, oh, no, you know, everything's fine, you know, and this and that. And the one that made me laugh in the last few weeks, probably saw a tweet about this one as well, So Nancy Pelosi, who, you know, is massively against walls, no walls, open the borders type thing. Well, guess where she's just moved after criticizing Florida and, you know, the governor and, you know, the people of Florida and all this criticism for the last year and a half, 2 years. She's just gone and moved to Florida herself. And she's, right, I mean, I don't know if this is accurate, but someone showed an image of her house. You should see the size of this wall and the security and everything else. So just the irony of, or the hypocrisy of all of these politicians at the moment. In fact, let's talk about that for a second. One thing that I'm really upset about, and I think the public are upset about, and this is why you're seeing this change in opinion on vaccines at the moment. And I'll be careful what I say here, because I don't want this channel getting banned like a lot of my friends have been. But this whole time that, you know, I had relatives pass away during this pandemic, and so did my wife. Her father unfortunately passed away. Very, very sad with all of the, and again, not just us, I know a lot of you have been affected by this. I couldn't go to a family member's funeral. I wasn't allowed. My wife couldn't go and visit her father in the care home. She was forcibly stopped from going to visit him before he passed away. You know, there's all this that's happened. It's really, really sad that all these things have happened. And yet, we all followed the rules, whether we agreed with them or not. We followed these rules that all the politicians set. And then in the UK, what did they do? This whole time we were following the rules, we couldn't go and see loved ones, we couldn't go to funerals. They were having parties. No, it's crazy. No joke. They were having parties. So far, 8 parties. Okay, I've got a massive obstacle, fallen tree to get over here. But they were having these parties. Okay, let me pause for a sec. And I'm back. So they were having these parties, absolutely disgraceful. And if you believe some of the stories that have been told about these parties, not only were they, you know, hugging, kissing, yeah, all that sort of crap, but they were also passing around a bottle of champagne. Now, tell me something. What's more risky, passing around a bottle of champagne where you're getting other people's saliva on it, or, you know, a face mask or something, breathing in a space where there aren't really many people in there? It's just outrageous, all of the things that they are, you know, they've been doing and they're coming out with now as well. So I was very surprised that the BBC for once had a spine, the backbone, and basically said to the Prime Minister, I might have to turn around in a second here, but they basically said, is this plan B, and I'm talking about the UK government here, is this plan B just to divert attention away from all the stuff that you did with the parties and all that? They won't even answer the questions, you know. No one's coming out and saying, you know, we were wrong, we're so sorry, etc. They're just acting as if it's not a big deal, nothing really happened, etc. It's just shocking. And I think this has destroyed public confidence. Okay, I think this is as far as we're going to get on this way. We're not going to get much further that way today. Usually I'll go down there, but with the camera, it's probably a little bit more for me, even as an obstacle course here. So this is very interesting then. So I have a neighbour. She's about as far to the left as a person can get. And I was talking to her the other day, and she said she wanted to have a chat with me and stuff like that. And she just wanted my opinion on things, because occasionally she watches my videos, doesn't agree with my politics, but because I'm very central, as you know, but she's very far to the left. Well, very surprising what she said to me. And that was that she's completely lost confidence. She's had her 2 shots and the booster. She said, I'm not going to be getting any more, because I was told that, you know, we're all in it together, you know, just be 2 shots and that's it. And now, of course, we're being told every 6 months, potentially, a booster. And I made a joke about this on Jordan Peterson's Twitter, you know, saying, oh, the Pfizer CEO, you know, the Pfizer CEO recommends XYZ. Yeah, of course he's going to recommend that. It's like, you know, imagine the CEO of McDonald's. He says, everyone needs to eat a cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper every single day. Because if you don't, you need to be big, you need it to be big and strong. All your kids, 5-year-olds, they need to eat these Whoppers every day, right? Of course he's going to say that. Isn't it obvious he's going to say that? He's the CEO, he makes a profit. And yet people listen to the CEO of Pfizer and some of the other pharmaceutical companies. They don't challenge it. The fact that they're saying, oh, you need to have all these boosters, you need this, you need that. And then for them to come out and say, oh yeah, this new booster, oh yeah, 100% protection against Omicron. Oh yeah, and people are coming and saying to me, oh yeah, this protects you against Omicron. Do you know how long it takes to make these vaccines and boosters? They haven't made this against Omicron. This is brand new that's just come out. It's crazy. Anyway, getting back to what this lady said to me. So she said she's not going to be having any more. That's it. She's done her 3 and that's it. And her friends feel the same. So I just think that the public is now losing confidence in this, which brings me on to my next point then. Whereas before I thought, oh, this is going to last for years and years now. And now I'm conflicted. I'm not entirely sure. So whereas before I thought, okay, this could drag on for another 2-3 years. Now because of the public sentiment waning, and also a lot of people not agreeing with the passports that have just been announced in England, compulsory vaccinations for NHS staff, and all these other things, because again, the BBC were actually grilling the politicians on this. They were saying, well, look, all the scientists are saying this new variant, yeah, it's a lot more transmissible. No one's denying that. But they're saying it's nowhere near as deadly. So why are we now, when we've had Delta and everything else, why are we now making this a big deal with passports and everything else? So the BBC just went for it and said, this is because you politicians have broken your integrity, your moral, you're just deflecting attention, and you're making the public suffer as a result. And I'd agree with that. I think that's true. Even though I don't like the BBC, they're actually correct in what they said there. And besides, another point, if they said the first 2 would work, oh yeah, 95% protection or whatever, and now they're saying, oh, the first 2 don't work. I've heard some of the scientists at the minute saying there's almost no protection anymore. It's all gone. But the 3rd one will work, and then the 4th one will work better. Well, now they're saying the 3rd one is the same stuff in it as the first 2. Well, I don't really get that. Again, I'm not a medical guy or a scientist, so if you understand that aspect, drop it in the comments because you can educate me on that. But the point about cases doubling every day throughout winter made me laugh, because they should really leave the math and the economics to me. If you've ever heard the example or the riddle of, would you rather have a penny doubled every day for a year, or would you rather have $1 million put in your bank account? Most people get it wrong. They say $1 million in their bank account. But actually that penny doubles every day. You become a billionaire much, much faster. It's very, very quick, the compounding effect. So when this is what made me laugh. I just did the math very quickly. And I went, right, if it doubles every day from now the numbers they're giving through the winter, you don't even need to go through the winter. Just by New Year's Eve, you'd already be at over 20 billion cases in the UK. Yet, I don't think they did the math on that at all. And again, as I've said many times, I don't even think these passports, these digital passports, are what they're saying they are. You remember 18 months ago now, people were calling me a conspiracy theorist. And they said, oh, a conspiracy theorist and all this sort of stuff about everything I said. Got some wildlife running around here. Everything I said was apparently a conspiracy theorist. Oh, cyber attacks, inflation, breakdown in supply chains, and all these other things. And now, people don't say that anymore. It's the weirdest thing to say, oh, a broken clock is right twice a day, and things like that, as if this was all obvious. And it's a real strange phenomenon with human beings. So the people that come out with this stuff first, way before anyone else, and I covered Great Reset, World Economic Forum before, I think almost everyone else was covering it. And I was a big conspiracy theorist, and now everyone loves to leave me comments and say, oh yeah, it's obvious, all this stuff you talk about. Oh, it's so obvious, you're not telling us anything new. Crazy. Well, anyway, I don't think that these passports are what you all think they are. And I think this is the next phase where in a couple of years people say, oh yeah, this was obvious, Neil. I think these are going to be used for a digital ID. So remember 2-3 weeks ago, I talked about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And I think this is the next thing. I think the central bank digital currencies are going to be next. And then, of course, once you've got central bank digital currencies, what comes after that is social credit scores. And not just social credit scores, carbon credit scores as well. So that's the other thing that we're going to have, carbon credit scores. So I think all these things are going to be coming. They've already been trialing them in China. So I think these are going to be coming to the West next as well. But just before I come on to a little bit of macro then, one other thing I was going to mention is they are doing a lot of exercises right now on cyber attacks. Why do you think they're doing that? It's pretty obvious to me. You only do exercises, like when I was in the military, we only did exercises on things that we thought were going to happen. You know, we didn't do random exercises on things that we thought would never happen. It would just be a waste of resources. So them doing all these cyber attack exercises at the moment, and the big one that they're throwing a lot of money and resources at is the most worrying. And that is an attack on the global financial system. Now, I haven't seen the exercises, but I can pretty much guess how they're going to do this or say it's going to occur. And that is, there'll be some sort of cyber attack which creates a flash crash. So remember this, save this video. It will be a flash crash, and this flash crash will affect all the AI trading software. So you're going to get all these problems with the AI trading software, which has happened once before. And this is going to cause just a massive issue in the markets. So that's what I think they're going to be doing with this cyber attack. So lastly then, let's talk about a little bit of macro. And I'll talk about the rates and QE because I've been absolutely spot on with all of this so far. And one thing I didn't expect, so it was just announced, Bank of England has raised interest rates this week. Again, no real surprise there. I don't think it's going to make a big impact. So anyone that's worried about that, I don't think it's going to make that big of an impact. It's not a big enough rise. But the Federal Reserve, that's another matter entirely. So always remember, liquidity is what drives the markets. So asset prices are driven up by liquidity. Okay, let's turn around again. It's actually liquidity that drives markets. It's not, you know, what a lot of other people talk about, productivity, how efficient a company is, etc. Yeah, they contribute, but it's really liquidity, interest rates that drive up markets and asset prices. Now, this is why we've seen such high rates and rises in terms of asset prices. And you probably remember how people were saying, oh, Neil's got it wrong, blah, 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 about these, you know, the QE tapering, where I said 15 billion a month will be tapered from the end of 2021. And everyone said, oh, no, there's no way they would do that. You know, even some big wigs said there's no way they would do that. And of course, they then announced it. Now, one thing I didn't expect them to do, which has just been announced now, I don't think anyone really saw this coming. And that was to increase the taper of quantitative easing. So it's not 15 billion anymore, it's 30 billion. So I guess this will end sort of springtime. Oh, train. And this is a big issue because if they drain all the liquidity, and let's say March, and now remember this month, March 2022, key month, not just because we've got all the liquidity drain, but then you're probably going to see some interest rate rises, very, very small, nothing major. But regardless, this could cause all the markets and all the asset prices to start to dip or just plateau. So if they do this 30 billion taper then, and it ends by springtime, for example, they'll do some very light interest rate rises, nothing major, but they will do some very light rises. Now, this is going to drain liquidity from the markets. That's a big problem, because when you drain liquidity from the markets, you don't have this same ability for asset prices to grow anymore, because they were growing as a result of all the cheap debt. So you start raising interest rates, you're going to make debt more expensive. So, as I've said, these asset prices are going to come down. You're probably going to see a plateau first. You're not just going to keep seeing 20% rises this year in this asset or that asset. I can't see it happening. But March 2022 is the date you've got to remember. And that's not just because that's when QE ends, where you might see a small rate rise, but a lot of these politicians, one we already mentioned, like Pelosi, etc., a lot of senators, a lot of politicians. I won't name names here so I don't get in trouble or sued or whatever. But what they have done is they've got a lot of options and they're betting against, so they've got a lot of options and they're betting against companies like Apple, Microsoft, and some of the big tech companies. And some of these trades that they're making are crazy. I mean, they're talking about, for some of them to actually work out, some of these companies would need to lose 50% of their value by the end of March 2022. Now, that's worrying because you've got all these dates converging around March 2022. I can't tell you exactly why, but maybe they know something that we don't, especially as most of their trades have not been wrong so far. So yeah, thanks for watching today. Please click the like button. Leave me a comment. What do you think of what I said today? Are you upset by any of these things going on as well, as much as the general public are? Let me know your thoughts on all the new mandates coming in. I can probably guess what a lot of your thoughts are on it. But apart from that, I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe. God bless. Please subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon.